welcome to today's REC Release drop-in session. We have an upcoming release later this month on the 30th of June, version 2.3 of the REC. It's all baseline now, and this drop-in session today is here to provide you with information about the 3 changes that are to be released, and give you the opportunity to ask us any questions that you might have with respect to the release. My apologies. We have only a very few of you on the call today that have signed up to join us. So what I'm not, for those who have attended previous REC releases, REC events, sorry, we use Slido to take questions. Given the low numbers of us here today, I'm not planning to use the technology. Instead, if you just want to raise your hand in Teams, and we'll pick up the questions as we go through, and there is an opportunity for Q&A at the end. But again, we'll just do it through the Teams hand raising function, if that's all right with everybody. Just in terms of who we are on the call today, my name is Paul Rock. I'm part of the REC Code Manager team, and I'm the head of communications within the REC Code Manager team. And you'll see Fiona as well. Fiona's got a camera on. Fiona's also part of the Code Manager team, and she's the REC Release Manager, responsible for making sure that all the releases of the REC are implemented smoothly. We've also got a couple more people from the wider Code Manager team on the call today in a we're watching capacity, I think, but it may be that they chip in with answers to questions later on. But for the most part of it, it will be Fiona and I doing most of the talking as we progress through this session. Just a bit of housekeeping before we start. Because we're such a small group today, I'm not going to tell you that you need to switch your cameras off. If you like us to see your face and you want to keep your camera on, more than welcome you to do so. It's sometimes nice to be able to look someone in the eye as you talk to them, isn't it? But I would ask that unless you're asking a question, you do mute your microphone, just to reduce any risk of any background noise. You should see at the top of your screen when you logged in that this session is being recorded, as all REC events are. We'll make the recording available via the REC portal after the session for those who weren't able to join us today but still want to find a little bit about what's going into the release later this month. And I've already mentioned how we're going to run the Q&A. We're not using Slido today, so if you want to just stick your hand up on Teams, and if you want to write down your question as well, of course, you can use the Teams chat to write down the question alternatively. Finally, before I pass over to Fiona, the agenda for today, after I've completed this introduction, Fiona's going to run the bulk of the session, going through each of the 3 changes in turn that are going into this month's release. They are R8, R14 and R19, but I shan't elaborate any further and steal the thunder from my colleague. We will give you the opportunity to ask questions as we go, and I'm sure Fiona will be more than happy to take them as they're raised. But at the end as well, we'll pause just in case there are any final questions that you didn't have the opportunity to ask as you went through. But I think that's probably my little bit of intro over. So yes, Fiona, I'm going to pass over to you. Please let me know when you want me to flick through the slides, and you're going to kick us off with R8.
Thank you very much. Yes, so R8 is one of the 3 change proposals that has been approved for the June 22 release. The change proposal is the consequential new and amended market messages for the BSC modification P375. So some of you may remember that this was being delivered under the MRA and has transitioned over to be delivered by the REC. If we could go on to the next slide, please. Thank you very much. So the BSC modification P375 is looking to make improvements to the settlement of balancing services for TER, which stands for Trans-European Replacement Retrieval Equipment, I believe. Oh, no, exchange. Sorry, someone just covered my screen then, or the balancing mechanism, which my understanding is more commonly known as. Because of the change that needs to take place, the REC has also needed to raise a change proposal to ensure that the solution can be delivered in full. So where it says in the title, consequential, new and amended market messages. The new element of market messages relates to the BSC change, where they are introducing 2 new data items and 1 new market message. If you do want to learn more about the BSC change in this pack, which will be loaded onto the REC portal post this session, you can see on the screen here, it says to contact bsc.change@alexon.co.uk. If you contact them, they'll be able to tell you more information about their element of the change. Under the REC, the change will be to make amendments only to 1 data item, which is legacy code J0003, which is the MPAN core, and then we've got 6 market messages. The changes that are taking place is introducing new senders and receivers to the messages. So although you have got other parties, for example, energy suppliers, being able to send and receive data in these data items and data market messages, you will not be impacted by the change. It does provide from the 30th of June the opportunity for a new market role, which is being implemented via the BSC change, which is the asset metering lead virtual party. They will be able to start sending messages via sending data via these messages. They will be sent to the meter operator or the half-hourly data collector, and the meter operator will be able to send information back to the AM LVP in return. So those messages will go live from the 30th of June. If we go on to the next slide, please. In terms of more detail around those data items, they are available via the EMAR pre-release, which has already been published for you to review. There is also information relating to the amended data item and market messages on the REC portal. Changes to REC products that will be implemented from the 30th of June is the standards definition document, the data item catalogue and the market messages catalogue. All of those items will be available on EMAR in digital format, and there will be a non-digital version of the standards definition document on the REC portal. So any of the information that we've talked about around the data item and the market messages, if you want to see what the June release version, or from June, what the REC version looks like, you can go into that pre-release stream in EMAR. You would have been communicated a link to the pre-release stream via the REC weekly bulletin and the change bulletin. However, you can also access a link to that pre-release stream via the REC portal. To do that, you would go to My Dashboard, go onto REC Documents, and then go onto the release information page. And in there, you'll see the June release and the link to the pre-release stream. So that's all I really needed to tell you around R8. So if we move on to the next slide, please, Paul, and I'll start to tell you about R14, which is the cable color identification. So cable color identification impacts will impact distribution network operators and meter equipment managers. So what has been identified is that sometimes there is a supply shortage, and when the use of cables, it's been difficult at times to identify an outer sheath colour that matches the inner insulation. Sorry, my words aren't coming out very well at the moment. So that causes an issue. So we're looking to resolve that issue via R14. The solution for that is to follow the Institute of Engineering and Technology's wiring regulations by using an alphanumeric code. So what we're doing to implement that change is to update the meter operation code of practice, which will set out in Appendix 9 the alphanumeric coding. So should there be an instance where the outer sheath colour does not match the inner insulation, the correct alphanumeric code can be used in that scenario. To reflect that change, the meter operation code of practice is being updated. It is, as I said, Appendix 9. The wording for that to help prepare you is already available in the EMAR pre-release stream. So feel free to go and have a look at that information. At point of implementation, the meter operation code of practice will be implemented into the production version of the REC in EMAR, but there will also be a non-digital version on the REC portal. To access that document on the REC portal, you would go to My Dashboard, go to REC Documents. Within REC Documents, you will have operational documents, and it will be in there. In the REC portal, it is labelled Electricity MOCOP. And that's all I needed to tell you on R14. If we move on to the last change that's in scope of this release, which is R19. So R19 is consequential REC changes for BSc CP 1532. So if we could go on to the next slide, please, thank you. So BSc change CP 1532 was due to update switch timetables in 3 procedures, one being 504, 505, 504 and 514. To learn more about those changes, you can go to the BSc change at alexon.co.uk. However, you will only see the procedures for 505 and 504 because they are the only ones that are in scope of the BSc change now. The reason for that, P420 transitioned the ownership of procedure 514 to the REC. As a result of that, it is now the code manager's responsibility to implement the change to procedure 514. The purpose of the change is to align the half-hourly and non-half-hourly supplier agent appointments and de-appointment timescales. This is to allow the switching program objectives to be met. So with that, the Schedule 14 metering operations schedule will hold all of the process step changes for a supplier agent appointments and de-appointments. That has been updated to reflect these changes and again is available via the EMAR pre-release stream. At implementation, the REC version or production version of the REC in EMAR will hold the latest version of Schedule 14. But there will also be a non-digital version on the REC portal. To access Schedule 14, you would go to My Dashboard, REC Documents, and then go to REC Schedules, and they're all in number order. So just go down to number 14 and you'll see the information there. On the next slide, though, and I'm not going to go through this in detail, just really put this here for ease of visibility. This is a consolidated view of the amended timescales only. So as I said, in the pre-release stream in EMAR, you will see the full process steps with the timescales and who will send and receive. What we've laid out here for you, though, is the process step, the overview of the change, just for ease of your viewing. And then kept in the additional information that's in the Schedule 14. It does go on to another slide as well. It goes over 2 slides, but as I said, post this session, this pack will be available for you on the REC portal, so you can use that as a part of implementing your changes. And that was all I needed to go through with you today. Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you very much, Fiona. As Fiona says, we will open it up for any questions. So if you do have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. Of course, if you don't have any questions today and you do have questions that you have for us afterwards, you can always get in touch with us either by raising a service desk ticket on the REC portal, or by emailing inquiries@recmanager.co.uk, or if you're a REC party, you will have been appointed with an operational account manager, and who's a sort of specifically responsible for supporting your organisation in their interpretation of the REC. So you could always get in touch with them. There are no hands raised as far as I can see. Is there anybody that did have any questions they wanted to raise before we draw the call to an end? Give you a few seconds to unmute yourself in case you do. All right, well, I hope that means that we've answered any questions that you may have come to the session with. So did someone unmute there? Was Kathy unmuted, did I say?
No comments. Sorry.
Wonderful, good stuff. Well, as I say, hopefully we have answered any questions you came to the session with, and you know the routes to get in touch with us if anything else does come up. I will make sure that this recording of this session is available to you as soon as possible. It shouldn't be any later than tomorrow. So we'll make sure it's circulated both to you as attendees of today's session, but also more widely as well via our social media channels and via the REC portal. So you can share with your colleagues to your heart's content. But other than that, thank you very much for attending today's session, and I look forward to seeing you at REC events in the future.
Thank you very much. Good session.